Of all the battles in the Bible, probably the most famous one is the Battle of Jericho, this account that we've read here in Joshua. And it's been immortalized in many different forms of media and everything. But the thing that that comes to my mind very quickly is the song "Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho." I think many of you know it. You've probably at least heard some of the lyrics of it. You know, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. And it's a good song, and it captures it very well. Except there is one thing that it kind of gets wrong, and it's the actual main point that God was trying to get across in this instance. And that's that Joshua didn't actually really fight the Battle of Jericho. God did. God's commandment here is not for them to engage in a traditional siege. Now, back then it would have been different than how kind of we think of sieges. We think of it in kind of the sense of the medieval sort of times with catapults and all these types of things. But, you didn't have those types of conflicts anyway at that time. You didn't have these long sort of, drawn out circling of a city, but you could still theoretically do that. You could encircle a city and try and wait them out. It's just usually that wouldn't really go very well. In fact, most war at that time was fought purely on the plains, and if you had a city that was as well fortified as Jericho and people held up in there, well, you just kind of didn't deal with them. You tried to find another way to sort of draw them out, draw the army out, and defeat them in that way. But that's not what we see here. What we see here is really almost like a ritual type of thing, a procession that takes place over 7 days with very specific commandments that God said, if you do this, then I will deliver the city into your hands. And that is exactly what we see the Israelites do. And we see this obedience from Joshua and from all these people as well. And I think that's something that we should really admire about Joshua here, because it shows a level of humbleness from him as an individual who's already known as a military commander and already known as an accomplished military commander, to go ahead and follow God's commands, even if they might have seemed a little bit weird. I mean, it's interesting to kind of note that, God doesn't tell Joshua to take an armed group with the priests, but he still puts an armed guard near them. And I don't think, and God didn't say don't do that. So it wasn't like Joshua was being disobedient, but he was being, cautious. But I think there's a great amount of humbleness that we see here from Joshua in being willing to trust God to have the victory in this situation. And it's something that I think that we can model in our own lives. We all have our own battles, our own struggles that we face, but how often do we really just allow them and leave them to God's hands and trust in the way that Joshua did, that he's going to give us that level of victory? And I know I am guilty of this. I am somebody who very much likes to be in control of situations and try and fix whatever problem is in front of me. And there are times where I really probably should just kind of back off and just trust God to take care of it. And obviously that is hard because, giving up that level of control, we don't know for certain what's going to happen. That's what drives us insane. But the reality is that we have a God who, loves us and cares about us. And if it's within his will that things go a certain way, it's going to go that certain way. And we can trust in that. And, when he tells us that he's going to give us the promised land, he's going to give us the promised land. And if he gives us other commands, we should trust that he is by doing that, he is going to accomplish his goal, his promise in that sort of way. So for all of us, I would like to encourage us all to have more trust in God as we're facing these battles, as we are facing these Jerichos, to trust for him that he will bring down those walls and listen to his commands and follow them as precisely as we can. And as we do that, we can be like Joshua and we can have these accomplishments and these victories in our lives. Amen. And now I'd like to invite you all to join me for our last worship song today.